To get on this list, it has to be something under $100, something I bought over a year ago, and something I still use. I've gone through so much overlanding gear that I've either sold or just sits in my cabinets over there. So this video is going to feature the gear that's actually worth having and that I actually use. I'll put links to everything in the description. First up are chairs. To be fair, I have actually gone through a lot of chairs, but I bought these ones back in 2018 and still use them. They're a great compromise between saving space and being comfortable. To set them up, you just open up the bag, unfold the frame, it comes in the bag here. And usually you can do that just by wiggling it a little bit, kind of like that. And then you add the fabric onto the outside. So they're not a bad setup time. But the main thing is just how small they pack up, and then they are reasonably comfortable. When I put this on, well, you won't be able to see me anymore, but you get the idea with this one. I have tried other styles of chairs. This one, for example, was the best space saver because it's almost completely flat, takes up no room at all. It's also really quick and easy to set up because you just go like that. But this one's not very good for sitting around a campfire or for working. On the other end of the scale are these chairs from OzTent. These are the most comfortable chairs that I own, but you can see they take up an absurd amount of space. So I only take these ones when I know I'm going to be sitting and working for long periods of time at camp. The only other chairs that I've been tempted by are the front runner expander chairs. I have a friend that uses them and they're actually pretty comfortable. They take up very little space and they're at desk or table height, so it's gonna be great for working while camping. So I've been very tempted to pick up one of those because I feel like they're a good compromise like this one, but they're suitable for working, unlike this one. This is the oldest thing on the list. It's a tire deflator, and this specific one is from Smittybilt, and you can see that it has seen some miles here. I bought this one in 2017 after I got tired of airing down with my keys. This works by screwing on to the valve stem using this dial, and then unscrewing the valve core and pulling it out using this one, and it lets the air out really, really quickly. I have actually since switched away from it to this thing. This is the Indeflate from Adventure Imports. It's actually slower than the Smittybilt, but all I have to do is attach it to the valve stems using this, pull this valve to let the air out, and I don't have to go around to each individual tire. This just slowly lets the air out. It takes a little bit longer overall, but it's not too bad. It's just a whole lot less effort. I still do use this one. This one has just gone over to my wife's Jeep instead, where this sits in the Tundra. Obviously, if you're airing down, then you have to air up again at the end of the trail. For that, I have been using this air compressor for a very long time. I also bought this one in 2017, just after I bought the Deflector. I believe that this one from Revere is probably the best value air compressor that you can buy, since it's relatively cheap but airs up at a decent rate. Once again, I have actually since switched away from this. I'm going to be putting 37s on my Tundra, so I have mounted the expensive ARB compressor in there just because it is so much quicker. But this one is still in use because this one has moved across to my wife's Jeep because it does the job. It is relatively fast and it takes up very little space. The newest thing on this list is Onyx Off-Road, and they are actually the sponsor of today's video. Onyx is an app that you can use for iOS and Android, and I've been using it for a little over a year to help me find trails all across the US. Pretty much every single trip that I've taken in the last year involves at least one trail that has been taken from Onyx. If you look at the app here, basically all of the blue lines that you see represent a curated trail, and they have a bunch of information on them. So I'm just gonna pick a random one on here. So we've got a trail here called Paradise Divide. If I look at it, this one's easy. Got a 2 out of 10 technical rating, takes 2.5 hours. You got the distance, you got the elevation, and it tells you a little bit about it on the overview. So basically tons of scenery, got camping available along there, and it says that it is closed between March 1st and June 30th, depending on seasonal conditions. So if I look up a little further, best time of year, summer, fall. You can also see some pictures to get an idea of what it looks like. So this one's just gonna be very scenic. If there are obstacles on there, there are usually pictures of the obstacles on there. And actually that looks like a really good one to add to the list of ones that I want to do in the future. You can find detailed trails like this all across the US, in parts of Canada and the Baja Peninsula, and they total over 500,000 miles of those curated trails. They also just released a route planning feature, which I explained in a guide video that I just put out. If you want to learn more, I'll put a link to Onyx and I'll put a link to the guide video in the description. So this one is an odd one. This little piece of fabric is actually a headband with little earbuds built into it. I originally got this to play white noise and drown out the sound of snoring, and my wife's probably not watching this video so I can get away with saying that, but I've ended up taking these on a lot of trips, and anytime it's windy, I stick these on over my head like this and play white noise so I don't have to listen to the sound of the tent flapping around. If it's really loud, you can actually stick some earplugs underneath this and you won't hear a thing. Number 6 is an even odder one, or is it even odderer one? It's my channel. It's free to watch. I've got tons of videos from all these places across the US that you might want to travel to get ideas, inspiration, see what it's like. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button. In the last month, less than 10% of my views were from subscribers, and I'd love to make it to 100,000 subscribers. I could actually easily double that if everyone watching subscribed. For number 7, I thought about adding a bunch of my cooking gear to this list, but my stove, even though I've had it for a few years, isn't actually very good, and my favorite cooking gear is my cast iron skillet, which you can get anywhere and everyone already knows about those. I instead decided to go with this, and I realized that this is not very exciting, but it's actually really useful. It's a collapsible sink that I use to wash up all of that cooking stuff when I'm done with it. I don't even know when I bought this, but I've had it forever. And now, oh, it's actually got some old food in it. That's kind of gross. Let's just empty that on the carpet behind me. And now when I take it out, I've got even more washing up because I'm going out with a baby. So I have to wash all his bottles in it. So extra useful. These towels were a great upgrade when we switched from normal towels back in 2020. Not only do normal bath towels take up a bunch of space, but they also take forever to dry. That's not really a problem when you're home and you can just hang it up in your bathroom. When you're out camping, it's a pain, especially if you're camping in the Pacific Northwest. These microfiber towels take up almost no space when they're fully folded up, and they'll dry when you hang them over the steering wheel overnight, over the back of a seat, or you can actually pack these back up into the little stuff sack that I've got, and they'll even dry in there. So microfiber towels are a great investment. Number 9 is my strong arm knife from Gerber that I've had for about 2 years. This is at the top end of the budget, but it is a sturdy knife that I use for a bunch of stuff, most commonly splitting wood. Whether you go with a knife like this from Gerber or you go with another brand, doesn't matter, but if you get one with a nice thick back end that's strong enough to bash with a mallet or another piece of wood to make splitting firewood easy, it's a great thing to have because you can get a bunch of kindling that's much easier to light. So I recommend a knife like this, if not this one. Although when I got this one, I got one with a serrated edge. It's great for cutting rope, things like that. Not as useful for splitting wood. So I think I actually, if I was to redo it, I'd probably get one with a flat edge all the way along. Before I get to the last thing on the list, I do have a couple of honorable mentions. One of them is a headlamp. Doesn't matter which one you get, but headlamps are super useful. This one from Petzl's really, really bright, and Petzl are a great brand. So this thing's gonna last forever. Just any kind of USB rechargeable headlamp, very useful. But this one, I know it's a lot of money. You're looking at least $60 for this one, but it is gonna last. I've had the $15 ones. They don't last as long. I also want to mention my little USB fan here. I've had this since before I got my rooftop tent. before I got my very first rooftop tent. So actually, this might be the oldest thing that I'm featuring in the video here. It's just a little USB one, decent airflow, not amazing, but for $15 to $20, not bad at all. And because it's USB, I can plug it into the car, I can plug it into 12 volt with a little USB adapter, or I can get like a cell phone charging block and plug it into that. And this lasts forever. It draws so little power. The final thing on my list is probably the most important. In fact, it is the most important, and that's gas. Depending on what you drive and the price of gas, you might not be able to fill up for less than $100, but the point is that before buying any of the latest and best gear or anything that I've mentioned on this video, no matter how useful, you should be able to get out and enjoy yourself. There's no point in having anything on this list if you're not able to then afford to go out and enjoy it. Except subscribing to this channel, because that's free. And that brings me to the end of my list. Let me know if there is something that you have that costs under $100 and that you take on every single trip. Everyone is different, and I might get the next great idea from you. Thanks for watching.